Hello there. My name's Doug Milburn. I'm president and co-founder of 45 Drives, and we're here for today's episode of What's Spinning. I am not the normal host for this, so you guys will please bear with me. But I'm lucky enough to be here because I'm really, really interested in the topic, for a bunch of reasons, which we'll get into. But our guest today is Bill Hopkins, and Bill Hopkins is the IT department in the City of Keizer in Oregon, and we're going to talk about some fun stuff like cybersecurity and ransomware, and we're going to trade a little bit of war stories with you guys about our own experiences and that, and then we'll talk about IT infrastructure and in the municipal environment. So really looking forward to it. Anyway, welcome to What's Spinning, Bill.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Doug.
So first thing, so I'm a guy. I live on the eastern side of the continent, and you're way over on the western side of the continent. Tell us just a little bit about the City of Keizer and where it is, and then what it's like there.
Well, the City of Keizer is about 45 minutes south of Portland, Oregon. I'm sure most people have heard of Portland, Oregon. It's been in the news more often than not. And we're a small city of about 35,000 people right next to Salem, Oregon, which is the capital of the state of Oregon. I've been in the IT business for 30 years now, and I've been in my current position as the IT manager for the City of Keizer for about 20 years. The City of Keizer is actually unique, is that we act as like a public MSP. Not only do I support the City of Keizer, we also support a lot of other smaller cities and organizations within the region who don't have the resources to have their own full-time IT department. So we contract out to them as needed. And we have a total of about, I'd say 350 users, computers, various servers at 5 different locations spread throughout the area.
Yeah, fascinating. It's interesting commonalities here. We live in, the city I live in is about 35,000, and it just and then flipping in, and I think of our network, we're in the same order of magnitude. We're bigger. Actually, I'm not talking about the city, but I'm talking about our actual organization here, the 45 Drives organization. We have about 1,000 devices in the network, but that's the same order of magnitude. It's getting big enough to be a challenge. Fair comment.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're saying about what, 1,000 people? Yeah, we only support about 350 computers, users, and numerous servers and other network devices. So we're not large per se, but we are spread out over about a 30-mile radius from the center of City of Keizer, I would say, overall.
Yeah. Interesting. IT staff. How many bodies do you have in your IT organization?
Including myself?
Yeah.
2.
2. Okay. There's a load. Yeah. Yeah. That's a load.
Yeah. Yeah, as I'm sure most IT organizations know, they're understaffed, and I don't want to say we're severely understaffed, but we could use another person or two easy. But I've learned throughout my time is to be as efficient as possible and automate as many services and procedures as I can.
Great. Interesting. Yeah. Automation, proceduralization, it's our same internal approach. And and that thing, we hear that in all the municipalities that we deal with. It's fair to say it's not the most highly funded branch of government. Fair comment, I think.
For information technology, yes, I'd have to agree. They just want it to work in general, and when it doesn't work, they will let you know. And I don't want to say I'm underfunded, but like most IT departments, we could always use more funding and more personnel. And it's always the IT department's fault when something goes wrong or something breaks. I'm sure you experienced that yourself.
Absolutely. And that, we can all complain about funding level in our IT departments and everything else, but it makes you sharp. It's a challenge, it's a constraint, makes you sharp.
And you have to wonder, like the larger organizations like Garmin and MGM and so forth, with massive IT departments and massive IT budgets, why are they hit so seriously with ransomware? I've always wondered that.
Well, you know what? Let's dig into that. Just so you talk about 350 users level. Tell me about your storage infrastructure and data. What does that look like?
We have a multi-layered storage. Most of it is running either on, standalone servers or VMs, and we have a tape backup, we have a backup server, and we have our 45 drive device, and we also back up the most critical data to immutable backup in the cloud.
Okay. Tape and cloud behind standalone servers.
Correct.
So, if I paint you a picture of what we get with an awful lot of municipalities, we've used the word server zoo, where you bought one server back in 2012 that's great and still kicking, and another one in 2015, and another one all like evolves towards different layer of things in different capacities, sometimes different platforms. Would that at all match you guys, or are you guys more organized and structured than that with your standalone
Yeah,
servers?
more organized. When a server becomes, 5 years old, give or take, especially the backup server, I just completely replace the backup server.
Okay. Okay.
And more storage, larger, more powerful, and go from there. Then I retire the old server and move on.
Okay.
So having a server zoo, I can see how some places have to go that route, and it is a little more work on my end, but I decided not to do that.
Okay. Yeah, you probably trade off more work to the changeover and do more replacements, but less work to maintain if you keep the zoo aspect down.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about patching as many servers, or where is this data stored, or do we still need that data, and other issues like that.
So, and that brings up the whole thing of clustering. We do a lot of clustering with municipalities. Have you considered clusters? Have you considered the pros and cons of clusters? Whether it's right for you guys?
Yes. Yeah. For Kaiser and other organizations we support, clustering just doesn't meet the return on investment and initial investment for us at this time. Eventually we might look at that, but we're still just on, standalone servers, and we just, make it work with that from there.
Um, yeah, no, interesting. And I throw in there the impression of investment. We've sold a lot of clusters, big part of our business, clusters to small municipalities, and where what we've managed to do is managed to pull the cost of a cluster down to about 10 to 15% premium over the cost of standalone servers, and that's recent development. So and a bit of a changing landscape. So yeah, maybe we'll get to talk about that offline someday. Love to. Not a sales call here
Oh
with you,
yeah.
obviously,
Well,
but
yeah, for sure. Well, that's one of the reasons I went with 45 drives as well. The cost for performance per what you receive is, outstanding in the industry, and I haven't found anything better, to be honest with you.
whoops, I just paused. We'll let the editing go. Somebody's clunking something upstairs here. I don't know if it's coming through the mics. Am I good? Okay. Okay, good. I thought something was going to come through the ceiling there. Yeah, and that whole municipal thing, that municipal landscape, it's part of the definition of municipal landscape. Got to be smart, got to be efficient, got to go smarter, not harder, and smarter, not more expensive. So
Exactly.
yeah. Let's get on to ransomware, and myself as a victim with the scars of ransomware on me. I'd love to hear your tale of ransomware and how it happened, and take me through that.
So you're going to make me relive the
Yeah.
worst month of my life. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you. Um, what happened was basically this. We have an SFTP server, which we transfer critical data back between us and one local organization. The server had IP blocks on it, so only that one allowed IP was able to connect to it. What happened was the server was reconfigured for testing. Those IP blocks were removed. They were not put back in place, and during that window is when they attacked the server. There's a flaw in the SFTP software we were using that they exploited that we didn't know about, and the rest was history from there. They were able to live off the land for about a week. Week 10 days is what we figure at this point. They were able to get all the admin passwords and everything they needed, and they encrypted about, oh gosh, it's been over 3 years now. I want to say 12 to 14 of our servers. And I got a call one Monday morning where the finance person couldn't log into the finance server. So I log into the finance server and up pops this message: you've been affected by ransomware. This is how you pay us. This is how you get your files unencrypted, and the rest is history.
Wow, that sounds painful. Uh,
I'm sure you know how that works.
you know what? You actually, uh, yeah, you have a nicer story than we had. Your attack. You had a temporary technical breakdown. You talked about your IP blocks getting removed. Ours was, and ours back. I don't have a date on it, but Bitcoin were about $100 or $150 at the time, so it's a while
Mm.
back now. And, ransomware's been around since I think it's the late '80s or something. Ransomware came around. Anyway, it wasn't that. I mean, this is like in the 10 to 15 year range. We had somebody and somebody, or she's our director of HR, and she it was a social attack, and she was somebody had left and she was covering work for somebody, and there was a email attachment which got through our carefully scanned emails. They had just put a new little shell around the thing, and which the virus checkers had not caught up to, and it comes in, and it was said voicemail for, I forget the name of the person, but it was exactly the same as the person who had left the day before. And so she goes, click, I'm looking after the work, better check voicemail. A little bit frazzled at the moment and wasn't thinking about the fact that we don't do voicemails over email in the organization at that time. And you go, whoops. And then things look a little bit funny, and then it went 24 hours for us. So, but the 1 week for you guys, that's a pretty good latency time.
Yeah. They say like 90% of all ransomware attacks start with an end user. And I always say my job would be so much easier if I didn't have any end users. But then again, I probably wouldn't have a job either.
Yeah, absolutely. And that whole thing, we look at it. I say there's a fundamental architectural flaw, architectural feature in all of our networks that our data storage has to be accessible to users. Because if it didn't have to be, it's a vault and you could lock it up completely, right? And it's that that necessity of having read-write access on the end of users, and then the social attacks are just by far the biggest attack, like we had, and versus technical failure, you're into or technical flaw, which you guys are in the minority in that. So
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up that voicemail, because just earlier in the week, one of my end users got a voicemail that says, here's a voicemail from IT, click here to read it. And it came from Keizer.org. So they just put an M at the end of the domain, the top level domain, and she clicked on the link, of course. But thankfully, I have domain blocking, which took care of it and wouldn't allow the site to resolve. So nothing happened from that result. So that prompted me to go, and my email scanning and write a regular expression to block any domain with more than 3 characters that has org in it. So
okay, that's nice.
I didn't even know that was possible.
Staying ahead with social attacks, right? They just keep on coming at you, keep on coming at you, and it's just so cat and mouse. And you guys sound like you're well protected. This was well thought out. And you get dinged. I mean, that's what happened to us. We're like very serious about our cybersecurity, and we got dinged. It was a lot of years ago, and but we got dinged, and it's like, it's tough. It's just the ongoing cat and mouse game. They're playing it with the, attachment scanning, constantly changing, and good guys trying to keep up with the bad guys, and and the social attacks getting more and more sophisticated. Social attacks. And I worry about AI, as you look a lot of the the phishing attempts and phishing emails. I look, a lot of them are so poorly written, but AI is going to help them up their game on that. So
Oh, immensely. AI is going to be, once everyone has easy access to, well, what am I saying? A lot of people do have easy access to AI now to be able to craft, better attacks of all sorts. And we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg now. It's just going to get worse as time goes by. And I'm of the theory, and I have yet to be proven wrong, that everybody will be attacked at one time or another by ransomware or some other, data stealing software from some state actor or some other ransomware type group. And the key is not only to, well, let me think about this, is that you will be attacked. You just have to limit the data and be able to recover from the attack without having to pay a ransom. Because in the last, I don't know if you're aware of this, but back in early 2022, there was a flaw in Exchange that affected basically every Exchange server that allowed someone to, with a specially crafted URL, to drop files on the server. And Microsoft knew about this for months beforehand, and they only put out a patch once that flaw became, aware. I think CISA set out an emergency alert about that. And we were attacked then as well. And what I think was happening in that case is that some organization or ransomware group was going around tagging every vulnerable Exchange server just to come back later. So even though our Exchange server was hit, there was no damage. It was easy repair. And as soon as I realized that the server was compromised, I checked my backups, make sure they were good, make sure I could recover from this. So, and that comes back around to my point, is that you're going to be hit at some point, make sure you can recover from it. And that's the really key point, or at least minimize your damage.
Yeah, going to be hit, it reminds me of sailing. I'm a sailor, and great sailing in the East Coast here where I live, and they have an expression sailing. They say two kinds of sailors: the ones that have run aground, and the ones that lie. So, I think
that's like the two best days to own a boat: when you buy it and when you sell it.
Absolutely, yeah, all those wonderful things. But anyway, yeah, ransomware. Anyway, the other thing. And I think of the emotional impact of us getting hit. We still, our director of HR, if anybody says ransomware, she is still, traumatized, and we're going, he's up, it's okay. Stuff happens in life, but she's still traumatized over it. But the other thing, and let me lead into the other part of it, and a real similarity on that, she got hit, we got hit when, after her click at about 4:00 in the afternoon. She left shortly after, and the next morning, our first thing, and she went into, her machine had access to a couple of our general servers that, a lot of general files, including customer files on it. And so therefore, once that ransomware was in, it's wide open, everything that it accesses. And it went wild on it, and it got a lot of things done before the morning. And, the morning, and I think you described something like this, I got a call from somebody. IT gets a call. Yeah, can't open a file. And Kim hadn't been back in. She got the message. Your computer's been infected. The other people trying to open the file didn't get that. And they're the early morning crew, and then somebody says, yeah, I'll get to it. Meanwhile, before they get up there to help them on it, how many more files got encrypted over that time just when you're thinking about it? By the time they got the second go on it, they go, uh-oh, we got an emergency. And then shutting the whole place down. And did you go through the same thing? When you discover there's a problem, the whole network?
Oh, exactly. As soon as I discovered it was an issue, I just disconnected us from the internet, and we were down for a good 2 or 3 days. Now, we had a secure backup internet service that is able to, still access the internet and gather information from, but no email coming in and out, and no nothing. And something I wanted to bring up about our attack, our ransomware group was stupid and clumsy, or a combination of the two. They infected 12 to 14 our servers, and they encrypted some of them so badly I couldn't recover from them without reinstalling the OS. Okay. And due to that, there was no reason to pay ransom on those servers. They were saying, okay, we're only going to charge you $5,000 per server you want to decrypt. So out of a possible, 14 servers, we only had to pay to decrypt 8 of them. So it just didn't make sense to me. It caused me a lot more work, but I guess they just didn't care. It's like, the shotgun attack. Encrypt everything and see what falls out the other side.
So yeah, it's interesting. When we got dinged, our servers did not get corrupted, and we had good backups. We dealt with these guys. It was a couple of Bitcoins. So it was like $300. So we looked at it, and we could have recovered on our own, but it would have taken days and days of, do you revert? We had like, it would have been, day and a half's work or something like that in there, all muddled in. So it's cheaper to pay the $300. But I was actually with our ransomware group. I jokingly say about it now. I say, they took our money. I didn't want to pay them the $300, but sometimes I don't want to pay my income tax either. And at least the ransomware people were very polite to me. The income tax people sometimes aren't. So I say jokingly. But anyway, yeah, we did get out of it in that, but it's it's not nothing you want to rely on, and just perpetuates the problem the minute you start paying people.
Yeah, we had to hire a remediation company who took care of all that with us. They had a Russian-speaking person on staff. They did the negotiation. They brought down the cost of what it would cost us per server to recover from. And, the entire process was, smooth overall for the most part, but it's just, hair pulling, to be honest with you. I'm sure you can experience that. And we paid a bit more than $300, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think it's the time. We were lucky. We saw ourselves being really lucky. We did have backups. We were well backed up. Well backed up. We were not snapshotted in those days. And snapshotting, we get very, very current on it, and backup. And the backup would have taken days to run a backup, so they didn't happen all the time. So anyway, we were there, but what a mess, right? When you try to remediate the thing, like what a mess.
Oh, completely. Like I was saying, I mean, they encrypted critical files on the C drive, which prevented the server from booting. And, in some cases, I couldn't even restore the OS to get it back up and going. And since it was a RAID array, that broke the RAID array as well. And it is just a nightmare. Luckily, the servers that I couldn't recover from were like a video server, which didn't matter too much, and a couple other, miscellaneous storage server. We had a server which stored DVDs, so we could always just recover that from the DVDs. Just servers that didn't matter. But, from my point of view, if I were to do this at all, I'd make sure that at least they could have access to the servers and know what the issue is. So they would have to pay me for the servers. But, some of them I couldn't even get access to and had to rebuild them from scratch. But anyways, I digress.
It's really interesting to dig deep in that and all the different experiences that we have. And so we had that, and I tell you, that sat with me for years and years and years. And I looked at it and I said, how do we, I said, problem number one, even if I knew, if we knew the minute that ransomware started attacking, the whole experience would have been dramatically different. That time lag was one of the big problems. And so it's really interesting to hear that, how long it went at your infrastructure before you found out. And it's just the way it is. It's like you gotta hit the right file and hit one of the ones that's dinged, right? And then until it says it won't open.
And, my home drive on the server was restricted only to my name. So not even the admin account get in there, but since I'm the administrator anyways, it didn't matter. They couldn't encrypt that file, my files, but everything else was encrypted. Something I did find interesting was that ransomware has changed completely in the past 3.5 years since we were hit. We had every file on the server completely encrypted. Nowadays, they're only encrypting, the most recent strand of ransomware is only encrypting the first, couple hundred megs or whatever of the file. And it's much quicker and much more efficient. So if you don't catch it in time, what I'm trying to say is you can't catch it in time. By the time you actually notice it, you'll have your entire server encrypted.
Yeah. We have our ransomware lab. We run the stuff all the time, and and some of them are, we're seeing 50,000 files a minute and speeds like that. And
exactly.
Yeah, faster your server, the worse off you are. Yeah, the software's gotten really, really good, or really, really bad.
Yeah, exactly. It took them 2 or 3 days to encrypt everything for us. It was like over a long weekend or a weekend or something like that. So, they put a lot of time and effort into it, but, every file was fully encrypted. But that's not the case anymore. So, in that respect, we were lucky, is that they could have been in and out much quicker than they would, but then results the same.
Yep. And that's it. And then, so you get there, that whole thing of detecting it. When you detect, you stop it. And then you had to go around and find out where the infection happened. That's what we had to do, right? And everything stops for that, which workstation got hit. Yeah. And then, And once you figure that, yeah, time, angst, a lot of angst going around on it and everything else. And so there we go. That's the old world, and we've both been there. So SnapShield behavioral analysis software, you're a user of our behavioral analysis software. How's the experience?
Oh, I couldn't be happier with the hardware and software combination. If that server was somehow encrypted, I can go back a day, a week, a month, or whatever I have it currently set to recover files from, a previous point in time. And that's just, priceless as far as I'm concerned. I mean, once the SnapShield effect, once it activates and it cuts off the source that's encrypting the drive, I'm basically done at that point. I just have to, recover the files. And I saw, live demos on my device and live demos from 45 drives themselves, and I couldn't be more impressed with the software, to be honest with you. It works really well.
Yeah, we were, of course, the first user of it. I mean, one of the big things was that for us, it's just to protect our own stuff. At that point, we say, hey, other people have this problem too. But that thing, yeah, if you, the moment a ransomware gets going, the moment it's behavioral analysis, so it's detecting the odd behaviors, and so their notification Slack. Yep, somebody before you get the call from anybody in a workstation. And in this case, you're going to get the person, the infected workstation, is going to call you up and say, I can't open any file. It seems like I'm cut off the network. Oh, yeah, you're cut off the network. Well, and IT knows that before the person knows it. So.
Yeah, kick them off the island is what we call it. We do that every once in a while. Just to be on the safe side. We use Sentinel-1 as our antivirus, and if that flags, we don't even think twice about it. We kick them off the island until we can, look at the computer and find out exactly what they did.
Yeah, right on. That's it. The management of snapshotting, the wonders of snapshotting. The other thing that we love, we snapshot intensively. I don't know what you have it set to. Do you know what kind of settings you have on your SnapShield and how often you're snapshotting?
I think I'm doing it hourly, daily, and weekly. If I remember correctly, I'd have to go back in there and look at exactly how I'm configuring it, because I'm copying the files. I'm using Veeam to copy the files to my SnapShield device and just going from there.
Right on, gotcha. Yeah, and we use it in our general file. We have a storage cluster, and it protects our whole cluster. We snapshot every 5 minutes. And
ooh, wow.
Yeah, and it's you know what, and it's just beautiful. You snapshot every 5 minutes. What it means if you got hit by ransomware. It tends to be somewhat random in terms of the time of writing of the files that they encrypt, and so your odds, and SnapShield will pick up ransomware behavior. 10 to 50 files encrypted is sort of what happens on the faster ones. So your odds of having a file, the only way you can lose any meaningful data is that you know exactly which files it hit when it pops the fuse, and you go back there, and the odds of somebody having saved changes to the file in that interval between last snapshot, that across your whole server, is basically the odds of actually losing any data. When you go to 5 minutes, it drops to zero essentially. So it becomes an absolutely nothing event. And snapshotting, of course, versus backup, you're writing a whole new set. Snapshotting, you're keeping blocks. So it depends on your workload. If you're erasing a lot of files in your workload, snapshotting is storage intensive, but our general file storage, we don't erase that much out of the whole scheme of things, so it's not a big load on us.
Yes, I'm using it to back up currently my police evidence, so the files aren't changed often. Actually, the files aren't changed ever once they're copied over, but it just has to remain in pristine condition. And that was one of the issues we had, is that they encrypted the police evidence. Now I was able to recover those files, of course, but any good defense attorney now has a good argument against where the files changed, how we know these are original, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's interesting. An interesting feature of municipal IT. I mean, I guess everybody's got their mission critical data, don't they? But you guys really handle some stuff that's got serious
Literally,
implications if it gets messed up.
literally.
Yeah.
A bad guy could get off if that data is corrupted or it can't prove it's original.
So we go, and with SnapShield, you guys, God forbid, got hit again. You're into a real
It will
non.
not happen.
Yeah.
It will not happen.
No, it won't happen. And if it ever did, it really does become a non-event. Exactly
Exactly.
what was touched. Ability to go back and snapshot, and your odds of losing anything is like nil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm looking to expand the servers I back up as well in the next coming budget year. So maybe we do need to have an additional talk about clustering.
Yeah, always happy to do that. It's been interesting. In municipalities, we have so many municipalities that come to us, and they're like you, they're going for a backup server or something like that, and we float cluster, and they got a price to go. Wow, I can do that, and that'll swing in the budget. And then the next thing that happens, they get their cluster, and they intend to use it for one purpose, and then they go, hey, I can just make a different share on this software-defined storage. So they start using it, and it expands. And next thing you know, they're going, well, this world of clustering, high availability, server goes down. Yawn. I'm going fishing for the weekend. I'll fix it on Monday. Nobody notices. And, it's kind of a nice thing. And then that whole thing of just being able to scale and never having to point anybody to a new share you make or anything like that, decoupling it
Exactly.
software. Yeah, it's a nice world. Fits in municipal. So fits in municipal very, very well. So so that's ransomware. I really appreciate you sharing your experience. We like to share ours. Wasn't always that way. I mean, shortly after it was kind of embarrassing actually. We were embarrassed by it, and then after a while we go, well, you know what, it just happens. So anyway, there you go. So
Yeah, I can actually relate to that. After we were hit, I felt like I let everybody down. It was my job not to let this happen, and it happened. And I still live with that and talk about PSTD. I mean, I'm on call 24 hours a day, and sometimes I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and look at the logs and show on, are we safe? Are there any IOCs? I mean, constantly. But that's what they pay me for.
oh, that's right. And it's interesting, the SnapShield protected cluster. We are people who buy them. They say that's their lets them sleep. The cluster side of high availability, something breaks down, and you go, yep, tomorrow, and then the
Yeah,
SnapShield
I'll
thing.
take 10 of them. Give me
Yeah,
10 of them.
yeah, yeah, but much more healthy than sleeping pills.
That's true, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, so what's new for you guys in Keizer in IT? Is it steady as she goes? You got any new challenges in front of you? Any expansions? Any special new data coming at you? Or are you just trying to deal with what you have?
Well, the biggest projects right now, phone server, new phone system, getting off local Exchange server. Microsoft hates local Exchange, so we're having to move to Exchange Online. Implementing least access on all desktops and servers, denying all software to run unless it's been pre-authorized. Those are the big projects right now.
All right. Got Yep. Interesting. Bolting stuff down. Cloud. And you talk about your infrastructure, back up the tape, and then this mutable cloud. What kind of data do you put in cloud? Do you have any worries about it going off site? Is that a concern for you? Well, obviously not, you're doing it, but are there any special precautions on that?
Well, because we're in Oregon and the Cascadia fault zone, we could slough off into the Pacific Ocean, everything west of I-5 at any point now.
Right.
We are backing up our most critical data to immutable backup in the cloud. So, if nothing else, if we live through it, we could always drive to Bend and reset up there if necessary. Our data won't be lost, our electronic evidence, the day-to-day data that takes to running the city, that's all backed up in immutable backup in the cloud. So, worst case scenario, earthquake, building burns down, we can eventually recover. And every organization should have something similar to that. You have immutable backup in the cloud. If you don't, you're taking a risk.
Yep, beautiful. I love it. We get the odd organization tells us they have issues putting the stuff off site because it's out of their care, and yeah, and it's not in municipality though. So I was just wondering if you guys. I haven't seen any municipality. That's why I was inquiring about that. That's got everything covered. Anything else you want to talk about, Bill?
Off the top of my head, I give presentations and, around the state, 2 or 3 times a year. So if there's anyone in Oregon who'd like me to come to talk to them about ransomware and the effect on us and how to protect against it, I'll be happy to. I think I might be even speaking at OSU next month sometime, but that hasn't been firmed up yet. But I'm available if anybody needs any advice or anything, please get a hold of me.
You know what? That's a very generous offer, and it's one of the things I love about the IT world, and particularly we're in the open source end of it, and just the community as a whole. I love that sharing. We got common problems, and we're so much stronger when we share. So thanks for making that offer, and yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, Bill. I really appreciate you being here, sharing your comments, and sharing your experiences. And all the best with you, and keep the defenses up.
Well, thank you, Doug. I appreciate you having me on, and please contact me anytime.
Thank you.